In December of 2019, a new strand of coronavirus was discovered in China. Throughout the next few months, it spread violently across the globe. The United States watched as the rest of the world started to close off. Then suddenly, in March 2020, schools across the nation shut down unexpectedly for the safety of our students and staff. This decision to close was a desperate attempt to end the spread of COVID-19. While this did not end the pandemic, it did reduce the risk of students contracting the virus in the schools. However, it did lead to a new problem. How do we teach students during a pandemic? My name is Anderson-Judkins. I am a graduate student here at Northern Vermont University. Normally in our spring semester, our quad is usually busting with student activity. However, like most schools around the world, our campus is pretty quiet. In fact, approximately 90% of our students have been remote for the 2020 to 2021 academic year, and the 10% of students who are on campus are in reduced size classes. As a graduate student, being remote has not been too much of a difficulty, for most of my work is independent research that I then present to my professors and peers for review. Younger students often need more hands-on instruction in their learning. These skills students learn in early grades are essential for learning later in life. Think about it. How could you study history without learning how to read, or chemistry without learning basic arithmetic? This led me to wonder, how are students in early and secondary grades responding to the changes in their schooling? How are parents and teachers working together in order to support students? And finally, what will the education system look like after COVID-19? To get a better understanding of how remote learning worked and how schools reopened, I went straight to the source. I met with some teachers and parents of students from preschool all the way through high school. After the schools closed, students and teachers quickly had to adapt to video conferences for their classes. This online learning became commonly known as remote learning. This change came quite a shock to parents and forced them to adapt to their roles in education. Ashley is the parent of two boys in first grade and kindergarten. When our eldest son started school in the 2019 to 2020 school year, she was prepared to be involved, but not to the extent that remote learning required.
They actually did need, although I did know that I was going to have to adjust major big time to become a teacher for them at home, even though I was not prepared.
Primitive studies have shown that teachers have been heavily dependent on parents during this pandemic, especially for children in the elementary schools. Ashley's story is not unique, for a University of Wisconsin Stephen Point study reported that approximately 75% of their participants were spending an hour or more a day supporting their children during remote learning.
Typical school day usually is when they're home when they are home learning through remote learning. They typically are essentially waking up in the morning. We have a time, usually about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They usually have their breakfast, and I allow them time to be able to relax and have fun, play games, watch videos, whatever, whatnot. Usually then it's I try to start school with my oldest first and foremost, considering that he usually is the one that usually takes the longest in trying to get his work done. Usually I tend to start him about maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock. And sometimes he doesn't even finish till about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Usually after that, we usually break for dinner, and then my youngest um, starts doing his work until bedtime.
A major problem for the remote learning model is a lack of equipment and internet access. This equity issue was a problem before the pandemic because not all students were able to complete assignments, such as research papers, on time with a lack of internet access in their homes. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, these students aren't even able to access their school's library or classrooms in general. Patricia is a parent of two high school students in Arizona. She and her children are fortunate enough to have a strong internet connection in their home, but many of her children peers do not.
And the first week into school for the fourth quarter, the kids were told that they didn't have to show up for class. Basically, their grade from third quarter was going to carry over the fourth quarter. If they did homework, they would get 2 points a week. If they did perfect, if they tried, they got 1 point. If they did nothing, they got 0, and they just get the third quarter grade.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that model being used around, but
For our school district, it goes into Phoenix, and sometimes kids don't have internet. And so then it was a matter of trying to get everyone computers, because not everyone has computers and not everyone has internet. And so they didn't want to punish the kids that didn't have internet and or a computer. And so by carrying over the third quarter grade, they at least didn't fail, didn't have one quarter that they failed, which would hurt the seniors for their GPAs, etc.
On the other side of the country, certified high school teacher Tori has seen the effects of remote learning on her students' mental health and academic performance.
Heard a lot of students talking like, man, I just got quarantined for 2 weeks. And so they're losing all of the school because they're getting stuck at home, which a lot of those students may not have the best Wi-Fi at home or be able to do and keep up with online assignments just as well, because online assignments do take a lot of personal motivation to do. So students are falling behind in class. And there was one kid, let's call him Bobby. He was quarantined for 2 weeks, was there one day, then the school shut down for 2 weeks. And then he was back for 3 days, and then he got quarantined again. So in the case of 2 months, he had missed 6 weeks of school. So you can definitely tell the students are stressed about it. They want it. It was funny. My county does this thing where every week on Friday, they send an email to the staff members. And at the bottom of that email, it has kids say the darndest things. And one student, it was a middle schooler, said to their teacher, 2020 did something right. It's making kids want to actually go to school. I just started cracking up laughing. I'm like, that kid is right. The kids want to be in school, and a lot of the times they're not being able to be in school.
It appears that everyone wants their children to be in school. In a recent study, researchers found that approximately 63% of parents of online students are concerned about the child's academic success. Macy has been an early ed teacher in St. Albans, Vermont for 5 years. Her teaching style has always been to put her students' emotional and physical needs first, and she'll be the first to tell parents the same thing.
To do all of this work all the time, especially in kindergarten, and they're so young and they need to play and they need to have those hands-on experiences, and we try our best to do that right now. But if they want to take 5 minutes and go outside and play, or if they want to take the whole day to go outside and play, go play, because that's what we need during this time, is to have fun.
Stacy is a high school honors English teacher in Tallahassee, Florida. Her school is currently operating under a hybrid model, which means she has both students in her classroom and over video conference at the same time.
But it's 105 minutes. And in case you did not know, that is a really long time. It's kind of crazy. Sustained ability to pay attention, but half of them, well, probably about 40% of them are at home. I don't know what they're doing. We're on Zoom together, but I don't know what they're doing. At first it was, the end of last year was terrible. And let me tell you what our school district ended up doing. It was Doodly's harm. So at the same time that teachers were really struggling to try to figure out how to even contact kids, we'd never done Zoom. We had no knowledge of any of this. So at the same time we were trying to even reach the kids in any way, kids were really struggling, families were struggling, but we were still trying to teach. What we decided to do as a department, we did a school-wide read of the book Anthem. Everybody, all grades, and we put this unit together, and some kids did it, some didn't. I had some kids that did nothing. For 9 weeks, they literally did nothing. But the school district kind of came up with this Doodly's charm, and they gave a kid, at the end, the kids got an option. They could take the grade they earned for the last 9 weeks, or they could average their grades for the first 9 weeks and take that grade. So I had kids that worked really hard and their grades improved. I had kids who did literally nothing and had a 0 and still got an A because the first 9 weeks they had A's. What do you say about that? Of course, there's got to be learning deficits coming in. And then we came into the school year and we still have kids without technology. Our kids had not been all issued devices previous to this year. And because it was a pandemic, everybody was issuing devices. And so we started the school year. Some kids still didn't have computers at home. And so we were trying to get them packets of information to work on, or had devices that weren't compatible necessarily with Zoom. It took a long time to get everybody to be able to come to class every day, either physically or in a Zoom meeting, and know it was going to be stable. And then for us to figure out how to learn that way. When I had kids I was talking to here and kids I was talking to here, and then the 105-minute thing, that was a whole other issue. So I'm going to say that yes, there are definitely going to be what I would call textbook learning deficits, but also when you talk to the kids about what have they gained, they will tell you they have gained independence, they have gained maturity, they have gained fortitude, they understand stick-to-itness, all of those things. So I think in the end, it's going to be a balance.
It appears that students have not been achieving as nearly as they would have done if the pandemic had not happened. But however, as Stacy discovered, her high school students were gaining high-level skills like self-accountability and motivation. These were things I didn't learn until my second year of undergrad program.
The parent-teacher relationship has always been necessary for student success. Now with the parents stepping up and teachers having to step away, it has become extra sensitive.
I've tried, like my biggest worry right now is they have a rule that if you miss 11 or more classes in a semester, then you automatically fail the semester. But there's issues with attendance because like I get a phone call almost every day from the school saying that my child missed a class. And sometimes they do miss, especially when they're online because they just, fell asleep through second period and just slept through until fourth period or something. So yeah, they are guilty of that. But sometimes it's the teachers being overwhelmed and can't keep track of everyone that's on or something like that. Or, because my kid doesn't speak up, then the teacher doesn't think they're there. And so, I tried, but my biggest worry was that they were going to fail even though they hadn't in the class because of the attendance. And so I had to ask parents, and other parents were saying the same thing, that they physically saw their kids in class, like saw what the kid was, the screen was and everything. And so apparently they're not enforcing that rule this year. At least I hope.
It is a shame to hear parents are feeling underappreciated or even heard throughout this pandemic. Teachers have been trying, but they feel extremely overwhelmed, as Patricia just pointed out.
I think that the parents wise, they had a really difficult time because some of them are working full time and some of them are trying to teach their kids, and that's our job. I think it's really important that we need to understand as teachers, they are going through more than just pandemic, and there's always going to be those problems at home. And I think that that's really important. We need to take into consideration as we move through this pandemic.
Bonnie is a preschool teacher in Southern Connecticut with 28 years of experience. As you can imagine, working with young children can be difficult to do so virtually, so Bonnie has had to rely heavily on the students' parents.
A lot of me educating the parents about why we do what we do, and then giving them activities. So I was using this Facebook page. I would post activities for the parents. I didn't want to create something where the kids were sitting down in front of a screen. But that it was more for the parents. The parents would go and use the Facebook page as a resource. So they would go find the activities that I posted, and then they would have to implement it at home. And it was completely up to them what they wanted to do and what they didn't want to do. But it did rely a lot on them. And then when we do our Zoom groups for preschoolers, we keep it pretty short. It was 20 to 30 minutes. I tried to do a mixture of both, where the parents could leave the kids unattended, but there were things definitely that they had to sit with them and do with them, or at least have things prepared for them. So I would try to set that up ahead of time and let the parents know ahead of time what was going to be needed for that Zoom class.
We know from research that the quality of the parent-teacher relationship is a pretty significant driver of the outcomes we hope to see in children as they progress through school.
Oh, hey, I don't think that this is really working for my child. Can we change that? They definitely, they'll put in their opinion and say, okay, well, let's try a different route that negotiates between what you feel as a parent is better for your kid and versus, what we know.
Throughout my research and with talking with my participants, I've noticed there's quite a range on how parents are feeling through this pandemic. On one hand, some parents are feeling completely overwhelmed. They feel they are getting zero guidance from the schools and they don't know what to do with their children. And on the other hand, some parents are feeling the schools are doing too much and that the teachers are getting overwhelmed and they're giving them too much resources. So I don't know why there's such a huge spectrum on how parents are feeling through this pandemic, but I do have a theory. There seems to be a correlation between a family's social economic status and how they're feeling. For example, families on the lower end seem to be more dissatisfied, and these are families who are either just been recently unemployed due to the pandemic, maybe they're essential workers so they're out of the house, or maybe they're just, lower wages workers to begin with. And on the other end, the families that seem to be more satisfied are parents who are probably pretty decent off. Maybe they were able to work remotely and got to keep their jobs. So for the families who are higher end, my theory to why they'd be more satisfied is they probably already have the equipment and resources they would need. They probably already had internet, and they could have had multiple computers or devices that would allow the students to work remotely. Whereas families who are in the lower end, they might be the ones who didn't have internet. And they might also, if they're working outside the home, how are they going to help their children? Regardless on how families are feeling, the fact that we had so many families around the nation that couldn't teach remotely or couldn't help their children is why I believe we need to sit down and really look at the future of our education. Not only on the sense of we have some students who are probably going to be facing academic delays, but we also need to work on what we're going to do for future pandemics. One thing we need to do to help teachers is to provide more funding for schools. We need to provide for all the interventions that students are going to need in the upcoming years. We also need to sit down and have a serious conversation to plan for a future pandemic. I am personally happy schools went to remote learning to protect lives. However, as we see, our students, parents, and teachers were not ready for it. In order to protect future lives and the future academic success, we need to plan properly for another pandemic. Thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to all of my participants for helping me with today's presentation. If you would like any information on the resources I used or how I conduct my interviews, please send me an email at siobhan.anderson-judkins@gmail.com. Again, thank you so much. Have a pleasant day. Please stay safe. We're not quite through this pandemic. Hopefully soon we will be.
If you could return to February 2020 and could talk to your past self, what would you tell yourself?
Buy all the school supplies.
Be prepared and be flexible.
Change the school that your kids are going to be in. Charter schools that are strictly online. But
Run. Really, I think that in seriousness, I wouldn't have stressed out so much about what happened at the end of last school year.
I think that it was going to be okay. Just that, all the spring, March, April, and May were really heightened with fear all around. And I think, just to kind of be able to go back and say, you know what, you got this. We're all going to get through it.
At the beginning, when this all hit, I didn't think that it was going to be as big of a deal as it is now. I spent a lot of time online trying to figure out what I could do for my students. And knowing, I guess for me, knowing that that was enough